There is a kind of self-sabotage that doesn't look like failure, laziness, or procrastination. It doesn't feel dramatic, destructive, or obvious. In fact, it feels normal, so normal that you don't even notice it happening. And yet, this quiet, invisible self-sabotage is the reason people stay stuck in the same routines, stay trapped in the same mindsets, and end up living a life far smaller than the one they were capable of. It's not the big mistakes that ruin your future. It's the small, silent habits that slowly disconnect you from your potential. You're not being destroyed by what you know is wrong. You're being destroyed by what feels harmless. By what feels just this once. By the tiny patterns that look innocent but quietly chain you to the same version of yourself. Today, we're exposing the quiet self-sabotage you don't even realize you're doing every day, and once you see it, you'll never be able to ignore it again. The first form of quiet self-sabotage happens the moment you avoid discomfort without even noticing. You feel a hint of boredom, and your hand automatically reaches for your phone. You hit a difficult part of your work, and your mind instantly finds an excuse to take a break. You feel a little overwhelmed, and you open social media for quick relief. These moments seem harmless, even normal. But each one trains your brain to escape instead of endure. Over time, your tolerance for discomfort shrinks. Tasks feel heavier. Focus becomes harder. Discipline feels impossible. Not because you're weak, but because you've conditioned your mind to run from anything that isn't instantly rewarding. Quiet sabotage begins when your brain starts believing discomfort is dangerous. And once that belief forms, your potential shrinks to fit inside your comfort zone. Another quiet form of self-sabotage is the habit of overthinking instead of acting. You convince yourself you're preparing, planning, thinking things through. But what you're really doing is delaying the life you want out of fear of getting it wrong. You replay scenarios. You imagine problems. You create pressure. And in doing so, you never start. Overthinking feels productive because the mind is busy. But busy isn't the same as progress. The truth is, your life doesn't change because of what you think. It changes because of what you do. And every day you spend analyzing instead of acting is a day your life stays the same. Then there's the sabotage of lowering your standards without realizing it. You stop giving your best because no one cares. You stop pushing yourself because it doesn't matter. You stop dreaming big because it's not realistic. Slowly, your expectations shrink. Not because you're incapable, but because you've convinced yourself there's no point trying. You become comfortable with average, not because you want to be average, but because average requires nothing from you. It lets you exist without effort. And that's the trap. Self-sabotage often hides inside comfort. It whispers, "This is enough. Don't push. Don't risk." But every time you settle, you reinforce the belief that you don't deserve more. Another quiet sabotage is surrounding yourself with the wrong environment, not necessarily the wrong people, but the wrong energy. People who normalize complaining instead of creating. People who chase validation instead of growth. People who expect the world to change while they stay the same. You absorb the energy you're surrounded by, whether you notice it or not. If you're around people who sabotage themselves daily, you begin to mirror their patterns. Not because you want to be like them, but because humans adapt to whatever environment they're in. Your environment is stronger than your intentions. And if the environment pulls you backward, discipline alone will never be enough to push you forward. Another quiet sabotage is letting your emotions make your decisions. You do things only when you feel like it. You avoid things when you're tired. You stop when you're stressed. You wait for motivation to magically appear. But motivation is unreliable. If you depend on emotions to shape your actions, you'll never build consistency. Discipline doesn't care about feelings. Progress doesn't care about convenience. Growth doesn't care about mood. The people who get ahead aren't always the most talented. They're simply the ones who keep going when emotions tell them to stop. But the most dangerous sabotage of all is convincing yourself that tomorrow is always available. That there will always be more time. That one more day of delay doesn't matter. That you can always start later. But later becomes next week, next month, next year. Life slips by quietly, disguised as ordinary days. And before you realize it, The version of you who could have done more, become more, built more, becomes a memory. Tomorrow is the most seductive lie you will ever believe. Because it comforts you while it steals your future. Quiet self-sabotage doesn't happen in one big moment. It happens in 1,000 tiny choices you don't question. The escapes, the overthinking, the lowered standards, the wrong environment, the emotional decisions, the endless tomorrows. They feel harmless, but they quietly shape who you become. Change doesn't require a dramatic transformation. It starts by ending the silent habits holding you back. When you stop sabotaging yourself, your confidence grows, your discipline strengthens, and your life finally aligns with the person you were meant to be. That's the moment you stop living small and start living intentionally.